Have you ever looked at an elderly neighbor, full of life just a few years ago, and wondered how they faded so fast? No fall, no heart attack, no grand diagnosis. Just a quiet slipping away. It's not a story the news will tell. It's not a conversation you'll hear over dinner. But it happens again and again. This isn't about medicine. It's about something softer, quieter, and tragically ignored. Dr. James had spent over 30 years listening to stories, not just reading charts. And what he began to notice wasn't in the blood work. It wasn't in blood pressure or cholesterol. No, it was in the eyes of his patients. A sort of dimming. As if someone had pulled the plug on a light that used to burn bright. Which brings us to 3 simple, but life-altering questions. 1. What really causes the body and spirit to fade after 60? 2. Why is physical pleasure, yes, even solo pleasure, more than just a luxury at this age? 3. And what can seniors do today to rekindle that hidden spark without shame or struggle? Let's begin where too many stories end: loneliness. The kind no one talks about. In a small town nestled between wooded hills and golden meadows, there lived a man named Harold. 82, widowed, retired mail carrier. Sharp mind. Good posture. But something had gone missing. His days became shorter not in time, but in meaning. No one noticed when he stopped playing his harmonica on the porch. No one noticed when he stopped going to the diner on Thursdays. What faded first wasn't his heart, but his touch. His connection to the very thing that made him feel human. It happens slowly. Like autumn leaves loosening their grip. The world tells you that part of life is over now. Touch becomes taboo. Desire becomes a joke. And before long, even the memory of pleasure turns to dust. But what if that message was wrong? What if the truth is that your body doesn't lose the need for pleasure, it just forgets it was allowed? Dr. James began tracking this. And the results were startling. Patients who retained physical intimacy, even in private, showed longer lifespans, better cognition, stronger immunity. They smiled more, moved more, laughed more. Why? Because when you touch your own skin with intention, not in shame, but in kindness, you remind your nervous system that you are still here. You matter. You're not just existing. You're alive. Biologically, regular sexual expression boosts circulation, releases endorphins, balances hormones, and stimulates the brain. Mentally, it fights depression. Emotionally, it affirms your worth. And spiritually, it whispers, you still belong in this world. But most seniors never hear that whisper. They only hear silence. Which is why we must talk about it. There's a reason they call it the silent epidemic, this slow, creeping disconnection from physical pleasure. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't leave bruises. But it breaks the spirit just the same. Now, imagine this. It's a winter evening. The fire crackles softly. Eleanor, 76, sits by the window. Her hands rest gently in her lap. She's lost 2 husbands. Raised 3 kids. Her body is changing, yes, but it still remembers the power of warmth. She lights a candle. Not for romance. For ritual. She follows what Dr. James calls the restoration method. A simple, respectful way to reawaken the body. Not to chase youth, but to honor the present. Soft music plays. The room is warm. She breathes deeply. Slowly. She touches the inside of her wrist, like she once did in her 20s. No shame. No hurry. Just curiosity. A small pulse of warmth spreads. Not lust. Not frenzy. Just life. By the end of the week, her sleep improves. Her mood lifts. Her back hurts less. And, perhaps most importantly, she starts humming again while making tea. It wasn't a pill. It wasn't a new doctor. It was her. This is what the world has forgotten, that aging isn't a sentence. It's a chapter. And every chapter deserves to be lived fully, richly, deeply. But there are myths that block the way. Damaging ones. Too old for that. Not proper anymore. It doesn't matter. It does. Because when the body loses its sense of pleasure, it doesn't just miss joy. It loses function. Nerve pathways shrink. Blood flow slows. Hormones falter. Memory dims. The body, like any garden, needs regular tending, or it withers. But when we care for it, really care for it, something incredible happens. So here's what Dr. James teaches: pleasure is not a luxury. It's medicine. A form of care. A form of connection. To yourself. To life. The restoration method begins with just 5 minutes. A quiet room. Warm hands. No pressure. This is not about performance. It's not about youth. It's not about proving anything. It's about remembering. Remembering that you are not a machine. You are not a statistic. You are a living, breathing, feeling being. And you deserve to feel good. Now, if you've stayed with me this far, you know this isn't about scandal. This is about survival. In the next part, we'll look at how small, consistent moments of reconnection can literally extend your lifespan, and what specific steps you can take this week to rediscover that lost connection without embarrassment, fear, or confusion. I'll see you there. The wind howled outside that Tuesday morning, rattling the windows of Martha's small blue cottage. She had lived there for over 40 years, ever since her husband built the back porch with his own 2 hands. But now, as the leaves danced in circles on the ground, the house felt too quiet. Her days followed a pattern: toast and marmalade, a crossword puzzle, a nap, a little TV. And yet, under the routine, something heavier lay hidden. A fog she couldn't name. Not depression, not illness, just a dimming. She didn't talk about it. Who would she tell? This is the secret so many older adults carry, the loneliness not of being alone, but of being untouched. You see, pleasure doesn't vanish with age. But permission to seek it does. Dr. James, in his decades of practice, saw this again and again. He'd meet someone like Martha, kind eyes, warm smile, and yet a body that had not been touched with love, even by its own owner, in years. That kind of absence is not benign. It eats away at us. So when we ask, what can seniors do today to reignite that spark? The answer begins with restoring trust. Trust in your own body. Trust in your right to feel. It's called the restoration method, and it's as gentle as a leaf falling on still water. It begins not with action, but with a setting. Find a space where you feel safe. That's step 1. For Martha, it was her bedroom, curtains drawn, soft socks on, a cup of tea nearby. It's not about making a big event. It's about creating an invitation. One that says, "You are welcome here." Next comes presence. Sit, breathe, notice. Noticing is everything. Feel the weight of the blanket, the way your breath fills your chest. These are not small things. These are sacred. Then, slowly, comes touch. Now, don't let that word scare you. This is not about sex. This is about connection. To your own skin, your own story. Perhaps it starts with rubbing lotion into your arms with a little more love. Or exploring the sensation of warm water on your thighs during a bath. This is your journey. There is no rush. In time, as you build safety and comfort, you may feel curiosity. That's a good sign. It means the body is waking up. With regular practice, changes begin to appear. Sleep becomes deeper. One woman told Dr. James, "I haven't dreamt in years. But now, I do. And they're sweet." Another man reported that his hands stopped trembling when he painted. "I feel steadier," he said. "Like I'm back in the room with myself again." How is that possible? The answer lies in how the body responds to pleasure. When you engage in mindful, loving touch, your brain lights up. Hormones like oxytocin and dopamine begin to circulate. Cortisol, your stress hormone, drops. Blood vessels relax. Your immune system gets a boost. And perhaps most profound of all, your heart begins to believe in life again. There's a biological term called neuroplasticity. It means the brain can rewire itself, even late in life. That's the miracle here. This practice doesn't just bring back joy. It rebuilds health. From the inside out. But let's pause for a moment, because we must talk about shame. For many older adults, the hardest part isn't physical. It's emotional. Years of cultural messaging have built a wall inside. That's not for you anymore. It's wrong. It's silly. But what if we looked at it differently? Imagine a sunflower. Does it stop facing the sun because it's been in the garden too long? Does it lower its head in embarrassment when it blooms? No. It turns to the light. Every single day. You, too, are allowed to turn toward what feels good. To remember that you are not a withering thing. You are still blooming, in your own time. And that brings us to the heart of this message. Pleasure is not a final chapter. It's a language. One your body still speaks fluently, if only you let it. Let's return to Harold for a moment. Months after he began his quiet practice, just twice a week at first, he returned to the diner. He wore a hat. Played harmonica again. The waitress noticed. "You're glowing," she said, half joking. "I feel like I've come home," Harold replied. No one knew what he meant. But he did. This is the quiet revolution that Dr. James hopes will spread, a generation that refuses to fade. That chooses to feel. So where do you begin? Start with a commitment. Just 5 minutes this week. Not to force anything. Just to explore. Run your fingers along your forearm. Feel the warmth. The softness. The history. This is your skin. Your life. Your joy. And when doubt creeps in, as it may, remember this. You are not broken. You are not done. You are not less because your years are many. You are still here. And there is still time to reclaim what makes you feel most human. Coming up next, how to overcome the most common barriers, mental, physical, and emotional, to restoring your vitality, with real stories from those who have walked this path and emerged stronger than ever. In a small sunlit room with lavender curtains, Edna sat with her knitting, though her hands barely moved anymore. The yarn had become less of a task and more of a comfort, something to hold when her mind wandered. She had buried 2 brothers, 1 son, and the great love of her life. And in those quiet afternoons, between the hum of the radiator and the clink of her teacup, the silence had become a second skin. One day, during a routine visit, her new doctor, a gentle woman with laugh lines and eyes that listened, asked her something unexpected. "Edna, when was the last time you felt pleasure? Not comfort, not relief, but real, physical joy?" Edna laughed at first. "Good heavens, at my age?" The doctor didn't flinch. She just smiled. "You'd be surprised what the body remembers." Edna cried that night, not from sadness, but from something deeper. The realization that she had been surviving, not living. This is the third truth Dr. James uncovered. We don't fade because of time. We fade because we stop feeding the parts of ourselves that hunger quietly. But how do we begin again, especially after years, or decades, of silence? We must confront the barriers. And there are 3 that appear in nearly every story Dr. James has heard. The first is expectation. Many seniors believe, if I don't feel what I used to feel, it must be broken. But aging is not breaking. It's changing. The river may run slower, but its waters are deeper. You don't need to feel like you're 20. You need to feel alive. Start small. One man, 74, began by simply sitting with his shirt off by the fire. He said, "It's silly, but I miss the feeling of warm air on my skin." That's not silly. That's sacred. The second barrier is inconsistency. Just like watering a plant, nurturing your sensual self requires rhythm. Not every day, but often enough that your body learns, this is allowed again. The restoration method suggests 2 to 3 quiet sessions a week. Not to chase arousal, but to honor connection. One woman described it as gently knocking on a door I forgot existed. And one day, it opened. The third, and hardest, is shame. Shame is a thief. It steals your birthright. Your ability to touch your own hand without flinching. Your ability to smile at your reflection without apology. And yet, shame is not truth. It's just an old story we keep retelling. One evening, a widower named Frank sat in his car outside the pharmacy. He'd come to buy a small bottle of lubricant, something he hadn't done since the Carter administration. His hands trembled. He nearly drove away. But he didn't. And that night, when he finally reconnected with his body, he didn't cry out or weep. He simply whispered, "Thank you." To his skin. To his courage. To life. We are not born knowing how to care for our aging bodies. But we can learn. And that learning starts with compassion. Not the soft, sugary kind, but the fierce, honest kind. The kind that says, "I forgive myself for forgetting. And I choose, now, to remember." Because the truth is, this isn't about sex. It's about sensation. It's about reclaiming the full range of what it means to be you. To feel warmth. To hum while making tea. To run your fingers along the fabric of your old sweater and remember the way your mother used to fold it. These are not small things. They are the fibers of life. And in reconnecting with them, something incredible happens. The body responds. The brain awakens. And the soul breathes. So what now? Now, you choose. You choose to begin, however small. A warm bath. A gentle touch. A few minutes of breathing with your hand over your heart. You choose not to rush. Not to judge. Not to compare. You choose to believe, not in returning to who you were, but in becoming who you still are. Because as Dr. James often said, it's not about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. And when you do this, when you show up for yourself in this quiet, brave way, you teach the world something vital. That aging is not a decline. It is a deepening. And if no one else tells you this today, let this video be the first. You are still beautiful. You are still worthy. You are still here. So reclaim your light. Touch your hand like it's the first time. Listen to music with your whole chest. And when the breeze comes through the window, close your eyes and say, yes, I'm still blooming. If this message touched you, share it with someone who might need it. And if you're ready to keep walking this path of rediscovery, watch the next video, where we explore 4 daily rituals that naturally boost senior vitality and brain power. Your journey isn't over. It's just beginning.